Why do we write introductions? Well, for one, you need to bring the readers into the world that is your research. But who are your readers? If you're writing a dissertation, you are actually writing for only a very small group of people in your PhD committee. Yet, what does that committee want to read to grant you a PhD for your work? Well, they want to know that you're a good researcher, that you've read the relevant materials, understand what has been done before and what needs to be done in the future, have analyzed it and written about it in a way that contributes to your field, to science, and to the world. What if you're writing an article for a journal? Who's your audience now? Well, the journal readership for starters. But before it gets published and gets to the readers, you have to convince the journal editors that your article meets their expectations and fulfills all their requirements, that you are playing according to the rules of their game. Even if you're writing a journal article, it will not be the same if it is for a journal like Nature or Science than it is for a journal like Journal of Ferromagnetics or Journal of Sports Medicine. In Nature or Science, the readership comes from a wider spectrum of fields, so that you'll have to do a lot more explaining and defining than for a journal in a very specific field. In this course, we will present to you the CARS, Create a Research Space model by John Swales, which describes 3 moves. Move 1, establishing a territory, what we know. Move 2, establishing a niche, what we don't know. Move 3, occupying the niche, how we will find out. Let's analyze what goes into each of these moves. Move 1 contains 2 steps. Step 1. Here you're establishing the significance of your research area. This first step should convince us, the readers, that what you are investigating is worth reading about, and that was worth years of your life. It should also grab us by making the problem you are dealing with relevant due to its importance. The first sentence or 2 are of utmost importance, since they create the first impression of the text for us. Further on in this step, you also define both your title and key words, the terminology you're going to be using. And this step usually ends with a narrower focus, leading to the problem area. Let's illustrate what we've just said with an example written by a student in our course a couple of years ago. Osteoporosis is a skeletal disorder characterized by compromised bone strength, predisposing to an increased risk of fracture. Wow, wait, do I need to read this again? Osteoporosis is a skeletal... No, let's just go on. It is widely acknowledged that bone strength and resistance to fracture depend not only on the bone mineral density, BMD, but also on the bone quality. Oh, boy, this is heavy stuff. Well, let's plow through this. The disease is extremely widespread. More than 1 in 3 women and 1 in 5 men will sustain at least one osteoporotic fracture in their lifetimes. Whoa, now I'm awake. This is interesting and a little scary. He's got me now. By comparison, a woman's risk of breaking a hip due to osteoporosis is equal to her risk of breast, ovarian, and uterine cancer combined. A man of age 50 or older is more likely to break a bone due to osteoporosis than he is to get prostate cancer. Oh my God, I did not know that. That is incredible. The consequences of fractures are fearsome. 50% of all patients suffering from a hip fracture will never walk again. And 20% of all patients suffering from a hip fracture will die within 1 year. Whew, now I know why this is a very important topic. I'm so glad someone is researching this. Yet, instead of boring people at the beginning, wouldn't it have been a better idea to start with the shocking statistics that make the topic relevant to the reader? Here is the revised version the student wrote. According to the National Osteoporosis Foundation, 1 in 3 women and 1 in 5 men will suffer from at least one fracture due to osteoporosis in their lifetimes. As you can see, he started by giving validity to his statistics by quoting the source of the data. He then proceeded to write what he had written before in the first paragraph, while leaving the definition and what has been done before for later. This was better, not only because he caught our attention from the beginning, but it also led more naturally to the previous research and what was missing. The vast majority of patients are not diagnosed until the osteoporosis is fully developed and fracture occurs that requires long-term treatments. Identifying and treating patients at risk of fracture but who have not yet sustained a fracture can substantially reduce the 5-year fracture incidence and related healthcare costs accordingly. We see what the situation is now in the field of osteoporosis and what is needed. We understand that the present research will probably answer this need. Step 2. Here you map your field by giving a summary of the previous and current research and their contributions. Here you give the names and studies that create the research map for your paper or thesis. You will state who agrees with whom, who does not, who furthered someone's work, and who proved it wrong. In this way, the literature review starts creating a map leading to what is still missing in research today, known as the gap sentence. Here, how you express all these relationships is crucial. To help you do that, we pay attention to grammar, particularly here the verb tenses. We use the present tense when explaining facts or when defining. It makes things sound like eternal truths. We use the past tense, which is used to express that something has ended, to talk about research and researchers we do not agree with, thereby making what they found seem passé and old. And if we want to talk about research we agree with, we use the present perfect, which is used to express something that started in the present and is still going on. The use of this tense signals that it is relevant now. Now that you have mapped your theoretical and research territory, it should become obvious that something is missing. This is where you come in to make it right. This is move 2, establishing a niche. The end of move 1 starts pointing to the problem area, and now you present the gap, expressed in what we call a gap sentence, where usually 1, maybe 2 sentences summarize the state of knowledge by indicating what was not done or any errors in previous work. But please be careful and tactful about how you phrase this, or any disagreements or controversies between various sources. This hints at what you will do to help fill this gap. Remember, this is the most important sentence for getting your paper accepted. When this is not clearly stated, it constitutes the most common cause for rejection. Keep in mind that it is usually written in the negative. It must relate to previous work and has to be explicit, precise, and focused. Take this sentence, for example. Although the above-mentioned models give a good qualitative picture of the essential phenomena, no quantitative data, for example, the speed of the space charge expansion, have been reported. What do we know about the state of research up to now in this field? We know it has been qualitative. What is still missing? Quantitative data. What do you think this research will be about? Quantifying the issues at hand, of course. As you can see, it is written in the negative. It starts with although, a negative connector, and says, no quantitative data have been reported. Gap sentences are usually easy to spot. They normally start with a connector such as although, however, despite, though, while, but. Now we come to move 3, occupying the niche. This last move is a bit more technical than the previous moves and tells us the scope, aims, or purpose of your work. It might also tell us the structure of the paper or report. But if it has a common, expected structure, you don't need to do this. And in some fields, you also have a brief announcement of the major findings. If you do this, it shouldn't be too detailed, just a few lines. Those are the basics of introductions. Off you go. Go write up your research.